Chapter 994. Gu Mengmeng suddenly recalled Cole telling Leonard to kneel down, as well as Leonard's strange reaction. Gu Mengmeng clearly remembered that she had not felt any pressure, but Leonard had knelt down at Cole's feet. The situation seemed to be the same as now. "What do you know?" Gu Mengmeng asked directly. Cole tapped his lips with his finger. "What's in it for me to tell you?" Gu Mengmeng snorted. "It's up to you." Ignoring Cole, Gu Mengmeng walked towards Wabiai. Worried that Wabiai would hurt Gu Mengmeng if he lost control again, Elvis and Leah guarded her from both sides. Gu Mengmeng walked to Wabiai and reached out a hand. "Listen to me when you have calmed down, all right?" Wabiai sprawled on the ground, unable to get up. This was different from the previous times when he was sent flying. He had no energy left in his body. Not to mention 5th-level orcs like Elvis or Cole, even a 2nd-level wolf cub like Qi Xian could easily kill him, not to mention 5th-level orcs like Elvis or Cole. He did not move and just looked up at Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng said, "Snake has another me accompanying him over there. He will not let that me fall into any danger, so the most important thing is to protect himself. Do you think Snake is someone who can be easily defeated?" Wabiai was stunned for a moment before shaking his head. Snake was a godlike existence. He was powerful and invincible. No one was his match. Be it in terms of intellect or martial skills, he was at the peak of perfection. At that thought, Wabiai calmed down a little. His vertical pupils gradually widened and his emotions visibly calmed down. Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief, before continuing, "I will ask my father about Snake later, but Qi Xian just came back from the gates of hell. I really can't stop worrying. Let me accompany my son first, all right?" Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief. Wabiai snorted and did not say a word. The place where the beast deity was Gu Mengmeng's dream. Unless Gu Mengmeng was willing, no one could kidnap her and send her there. So Wabiai's words had no say in whether it was good or bad. "Can you get up now? Don't lie on the ground like a spoiled child." Gu Mengmeng smiled, her hand still extended in front of Wabiai's eyes. Wabiai roared internally. He wanted to stand up the moment he laid on the ground, but his eyelids were the most powerful part of his body. The most intense movement he could do was to blink. Cole took 2 steps forward and bent down to whisper into Gu Mengmeng's ear. "If you don't say he can get up, I'm afraid he will have to lie here for the rest of his life." Gu Mengmeng did not understand but still tried it. "You can get up now." Wabiai flexed his fingers and felt his strength gradually returning. He propped himself up and sat up. Wabiai looked at Gu Mengmeng, then at Cole. "What do you know? Hurry up and tell me, or I will kill you." Cole did not seem to take Wabiai's threat seriously. He continued to smile casually, looking elegant but with a hint of provocation. "For little Xian's sake, Gu will definitely protect me. Gu as Gu, Mengmeng, Mengmeng." Chapter 995. Wabiai's smile was filled with sarcasm. He had already been suppressing a bellyful of anger and Cole was the only one here who had nothing to do with Gu Mengmeng. Who could he blame for throwing himself at him? At the end of the day, even when he was fighting with Elvis in a fit of anger, he did not really use his killer move. He still cared about Gu Mengmeng. After all, apart from Elvis, Gu Mengmeng was his only friend in the past 800 years. But Cole, a lowly ant. Squashing him to death was just right. Cole's neck was being strangled by Wabiai and he was almost suffocating. But he was still smiling provocatively. He had never been afraid of death before. But, Qi Xian suddenly rushed out and bit Wabiai's wrist that was strangling Cole. The bite force of a 2nd-level wolf beast was very shocking. If not for Wabiai's insane level of power, his wrist would have been crushed in Qi Xuan's mouth. He wanted to raise his hand to slap him out of reflex, but when he saw Qi Xuan's face, Wabi finally stopped. If he slapped Qi Xian, he would be smashed into minced meat. Thinking of Gu Mingming's reaction when she found out about the special training he had done for the three little ones, Wabi knew that if he slapped him, Gu Mengmeng would never be friends with him again. Tightening the muscles on his wrist, he forcefully flicked Qi Xian away. This was the absolute suppression due to the difference in strength. Looking at his bleeding wound, Wabi frowned and walked away, ignoring everyone. Gu Mengmeng was in the wrong from the start. As the one who inherited everything from Snake, she should be concerned that something had happened to Snake's mark. Wabi's request was not unreasonable. But she had rejected Wabi's request for her son. And then, her son had bitten him. Leah, go take a look at Wabi. He is injured. Leah understood Gu Mingming's worries but shook his head. You should worry about Qi Xian first. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in confusion, before turning to look at Qi Xian. She realized that Qi Xian did not look too well and was shocked. Only then did she remember that Wabi and Snake were both venomous snakes. She still remembered that she had bitten Snake and almost lost her life. It was only because Snake turned around and helped her detoxify the poison that she managed to survive. Gu Mengmeng hurried forward and supported the swaying Qi Xian. Then, she let him lie flat on the ground and looked around, trying to find the antidote herb in Snake's memories. However, there was nothing. Gu Mengmeng was extremely anxious, but there was no other way. Just as he was thinking of learning from Snake and biting the tip of his tongue to feed some blood to Qi Xian, fighting poison with poison, but before she could do so, Qi Xian swayed and sat up again. He held his forehead with one hand and placed the other on Gu Mingming's shoulder. He gently pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms and comforted her. Mom, don't worry. I am fine. Gu Mingming's heart suddenly felt like it was being viciously clawed. All the grievances she had endured for the entire day suddenly exploded. Ah, sobs, my little Xian. I thought you didn't want me as your mother anymore. You ignored me when I spoke to you. You didn't even follow me home when I asked you. Sobs. Seeing Gu Mengmeng cry like that, Qi Xian was clearly at a loss. He looked at Cole blankly. Cole seemed to have never dealt with such matters before, so he just stared blankly at Qi Xian. Chapter 996. Gu Mingming's bawling actually made the atmosphere much more relaxed. Qi Xian seemed to be extremely afraid of Gu Mingming's tears and didn't dare to make her feel at ease. Whenever he saw her red eyes, he would obediently reach out to hold her hand. Gu Mengmeng was overjoyed at this change. Ever since her son was taken away by Cole, he had never been close to her and would even deliberately distance himself from her. He always acted as if he wanted to avoid her and not acknowledge her. But now it seemed that she had been overthinking. Her son still loved her dearly. Otherwise, why would he be afraid of her crying? With this understanding, Gu Mingming's mood became much better. She always looked at Qi Xian with a wide smile, as if there were flowers blooming beside her head. Mengmeng, don't always look at Qi Xian. Look at me too. Leah swished his large tail in jealousy. For the first time, Gu Mengmeng was immune to Lee's tail. She pushed Leah away and continued smiling at Qi Xian. She elbowed Elvis and said, "Look at how handsome my son is." Mom, don't worry, I'm fine. Mommy's so caring. My son is such a warm boy. Gu Mengmeng had already repeated this. Mom, don't worry, I'm fine 37 times. Every time, she would mimic Qi Xuan's tone and use a boy's voice to say it, until Elvis's ears were about to grow calluses. If not for the fact that he was very sure that Qi Xian was his son and would never have any other feelings for Gu Mengmeng, he would have already killed him. He shouldn't have had any wolf cubs back then. Why did he create so much trouble for himself? Elvis was furious but didn't dare to say it out loud. He sighed and said, "Is it really alright for Wabi to leave just like that?" Gu Mingming's face darkened at the thought of Wabi. She then looked up with a smile and said, "It's all right. Little shit is not a petty person. At most, I'll let him bite me back." Elvis pointed at Qi Xian and said, "Him? Is he enough for Wabi to take a bite?" Gu Mengmeng exploded and said, "What him? Who dares to bite my son? I'll kill him. I said bite me. Bite me and we'll call it even." Elvis held his forehead and said, "Why don't I or Leah return him an arm?" Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis and said, "Although this sounds a little cunning, but don't worry, Wabi will not really bite me. After all." Gu Mengmeng rubbed the back of her neck, a bitter smile on her face. She enjoyed all the benefits Snake had given her, but when his imprint went wrong, she did not even bother to look at him. She was indeed a bad woman. She was not worth all that Snake had done for her. But even so, in that world, Snake still doted on her so much. As Gu Mengmeng was in a good mood, the journey was not as boring. In the evening, they returned to the stray beast camp. Qi Xian could not stand Gu Mengmeng's sparkling eyes and finally decided to follow her back to the cave where they were temporarily staying for the night. He could also meet up with his brothers. Chapter 997. Returning to her cave, Gu Mengmeng could see Wabi hanging from a tree outside the cave from afar. He was in his original form, hanging there lazily. The only thing missing was a sign around his neck that said, "I am in a bad mood, come and coax me." Gu Mengmeng let Elvis and Leah bring Qi Xian into the house to familiarize themselves with the three little ones, while she walked over to Wabi with her hands behind her back. She looked up at the huge snake hanging from the tree. She did not know if it was because of Snake's memories, but she did not seem to be too afraid of snakes now. Smiling shamelessly, Gu Mengmeng said, "Little shit, are we even now? I won't be angry at you, so don't be angry at me too, alright?" Wabi stuck out his tongue and said in snake language, "Even? On what basis? What did I do to make you angry?" Gu Mengmeng pointed at his body and said, "You know I hate snakes, shit and snakes that look like shit, yet you still hung your original form here. Aren't you purposely trying to annoy me? I have already endured my disgust to come over and express my goodwill to you, so don't be angry." Wabi was so angry that he wanted to bite her to death. He came down from the tree and by the time he stood in front of Gu Mengmeng, he had already transformed back into his human form. He pointed at Gu Mengmeng's nose and said, "Do you only dare to use your sharp tongue on me? Why didn't you scold back when Cole was making things difficult for you in the day?" Gu Mengmeng did not get angry. She wrapped her arms around Wabi's arm and said, "Am I not a coward? I am obviously bullying you because you can't bear to hit me. You." Wabi was actually speechless. Gu Mengmeng tugged at Wabi's arm and looked at the wrist that Qi Xian had bitten. She kept her smile and said in a low voice, "Sorry, it was Qishuan's fault today. He shouldn't have bitten you." But Wabi did not appreciate her apology and said, "There is nothing should or shouldn't. It is normal for males to attack each other. It was my decision not to retaliate. Who asked me to not be able to offend his mother?" Gu Mengmeng gave a sweet smile like a younger sister and said, "Let Leah take a look at it. Apply some herbs or something, so as not to leave a scar." Wabi snorted coldly. "What's a small injury like this? In the past, when I was beaten up by Snake until I was on my last breath, I didn't even apply any ointment, but I was still full of energy the next day." Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. "I intend to cast a bewitching spell on Qi Xian so that he will no longer rely on Cole. Only then will he return to my side and I will no longer be held hostage by Cole. So, I really can't go see the beast deity today. Otherwise, when I wake up 3 or 4 days later, who knows where Qi Xian will be brought by Cole again. The longer they stay together, the worse it will be for me. So, I'm sorry." After fighting with Elvis and calming himself down by hanging on the tree in the afternoon, Wabi was no longer angry. Just as Gu Meng Meng had said, he could not bear to hit her. Even though he clearly knew that he was not Gu Meng Meng's match in a real fight, he just could not bring himself to attack this fellow who looked so small that he could flatten her with one slap. At first it was because of Snake, then, it seemed to be out of habit. Accustomed to taking care of her, accustomed to protecting her, accustomed to her noise, accustomed to her dependence. There was a warmth to her body that made him want to approach her uncontrollably. But it was strange. He was clearly a cold-blooded animal, but he still yearned for warmth. Chapter 998. After coaxing Wabi, Gu Meng Meng entered the cave. The 4 children were already in a mess. Although Qi Xian appeared rather cold compared to the other 3 brothers, Gu Meng Meng could clearly see the smile in his eyes. Kanwu was the most carefree and did not feel that it was embarrassing for him to be born from the same womb as Qi Xian. Qi Xian was already a second-level beast while he was just first level. On the contrary, he was extremely proud. He chased after Qi Xian with shining eyes, as if he could not wait for the whole world to know that his second brother could soar 90,000 miles into the sky and could stand shoulder to shoulder with the heavenly sun. This made Qi Xian feel rather embarrassed. It felt so good to be worshipped. Hedo was the eldest among the 4 brothers. Although he was still a first-level beast, he behaved like a big brother. He only joined in occasionally as his brothers fooled around. Most of the time, he held a fruit by the side and stuffed it into the mouth of whoever came close to him. Jiaoyu was the smartest. He was not as strong as Qi Xian and not as strong as Kanwu, so he would run over to Heda to ask for food most of the time. Seeing that Jiaoyu was eating, Kanwu joined in the fun and stuffed the fruit into Qishuan's mouth instead of eating. Qi Xian was shocked by the stuffed fruit and was stunned for a moment before eating it with a smile. Seeing how the children were getting along so well, Gu Meng Meng could not bear to step into the cave and destroy this harmony. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng was standing at the cave entrance smiling foolishly without entering, Elvis and Leah were annoyed by the 4 little ones. They grabbed the back of their necks and threw them out. There are many caves here. The 4 of you go and fight for a temporary place to stay. Elvis stood at the entrance and looked down at them. Kanwu snorted and hugged Qishuan's neck. Second brother, where we stay tonight is all up to you. Qi Xian was a little hesitant. Actually, he wanted to go back and find coal. But the 3 brothers were only first-level beasts. If the 3 of them went out to fight for a cave, they might even get injured if they failed. Although second-level beasts were not considered powerful in a place where stray beasts lived, Kanwu had worshipped them for an entire night. He felt that it was too disloyal to leave the 3 of them alone. So he nodded and allowed Kanwu to hug his neck affectionately as they walked away, swaying left and right. The 4 brothers discussed their battle strategy as they disappeared into the night. The laughter of the 4 brothers still echoed in the night sky. Their laughter was a little exaggerated, but it was very fitting of their age. She felt warmth behind her as Elvis pulled her into his arms. Let's go in. The night wind is cold. Don't get too cold. Gu Meng Meng did not turn back, she just leaned back and pressed her entire body against Elvis's chest. Her gaze was still fixed in the direction of her son's departure and the corners of her lips curled upwards unknowingly. Even her voice was sweet. I never thought that I would get married at 18 years old and have 4 grown sons at 19 years old. Elvis tightened his embrace and said faintly, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have let you give birth so early. Idiot, why are you apologizing? I don't think it's bad, I just hope that it'll be better if it can be like this forever. Elvis knew that Qi Xian was Gu Meng Meng's sore point. This was also the reason why he said that Gu Meng Meng should not have given birth so early. Chapter 999. Fool. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "You gave me your entire heart, this is already the most beautiful form of love. How could it be, just as so?" Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and looked up at Elvis's side profile. The moonlight was gentle and hazy, adding a tinge of gentleness to his coldness, as if blurring his sharp edges. Even his blue eyes had a unique allure in the night. "Hubby, I remember you telling me that you were angry at me the first time we met, blaming me for dressing weirdly and being unguarded. You said that if the person who came was not you, I would have been seen by others, so you were very angry." Thinking of the past, Gu Mengmeng could not help but chuckle. She continued asking, "But, you never told me, other than being angry, did you like me at all? If I didn't like you, why would I be angry?" "Stupid." Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips at the last word, "stupid." It was a light and lingering kiss. Elvis did not deepen the kiss and only asked back, "What about you? Did you like me the first time you met me?" Gu Mengmeng smiled shyly and said, "The first time I saw you, God said 4 words in my ear, I can't escape from this calamity. The funny thing was that I thought you were just a dream and did not believe that there would be such a perfect you in real life. You even allowed me to tease you, I kissed you then and said I would not take responsibility. Isn't that considered acting like a hooligan?" "Yeah, you can say that." Elvis smiled indulgently and did not blame her. Instead, there was a tinge of sweetness in his smile. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "Well, at the beginning of a great love story, there has to be someone acting like a hooligan first. Look, White Snake purposely made it rain to trick Su Xian's umbrella, Xu Yingtai pretended to be crazy and teased Brother Liang when they were sending each other off, the 7 fairies blocked Dong Yong's way, the cowherd took away the weaver maiden's clothes while she was bathing." Gu Mengmeng seduced Elvis and kissed him in her swimsuit. Elvis listened to her fallacious reasoning but did not argue with her. Whatever she said was good and whatever she said was right. The cave is already warmed, don't stand outside. The humidity during the rainy season is high and it's not good for Gu Mengmeng. Leah called out from inside the cave. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng back to the cave. Gu Mengmeng sat by the fire and hugged her knees. After hesitating for a moment, she said, "I want to use the bewitching spell on Qi Xian." Leah pursed his lips and said, "I have also thought of this idea but I feel that it is not appropriate." Gu Mengmeng looked up. "Are you also afraid that Cole might have given Qi Xian a hint beforehand, causing irreversible damage if I attempt to cover the bewitching spell?" Leah nodded in reply. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "This is also the reason why I did not dare to take action until now. But I can't wait any longer. Qi Xian almost died today, what about next time? I didn't know when Cole would push Qi Xian into danger again. I can't take it anymore." Elvis held Gu Mengmeng's shoulders gently and said in a low voice, "Maybe killing Cole is the simplest way. If you want, I can go now." Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "Cole wants to kill him, but not now. I want to snatch Qi Xian back first before killing Cole. Otherwise, if Cole dies and my bewitching spell cannot be overlaid, with Qi Xuan's current feelings for Cole, I don't know what crazy things he will do. So Cole cannot die for now. Aside from the topic, yeah, that's all for today's update. I know everyone has been holding it in for a long time. Gu Mengmeng was unable to snatch Qi Xian back and was constantly threatened by Cole. Chapter 1000. The next day, the 4 brothers returned with bruised and swollen faces. It was also Gu Mengmeng's first time seeing someone's face turn into a colorful screen and still look extremely excited. Before Gu Mengmeng could say anything, she heard Elvis ask, "Did you win or lose?" "Of course I won." Kanwu raised his head with a proud look, feeling quite proud and elated. With that, Kanwu pounced towards Gu Mengmeng. Now that he was taller than Gu Mengmeng by 1.5 heads, Gu Mengmeng could no longer hug him like before. But he still could not change his habit of hugging Gu Mengmeng. He especially enjoyed the sight of Gu Mengmeng caressing his head and smiling indulgently. But the moment he hugged Gu Mengmeng, he touched the wound on his chest, causing him to grimace in pain. Elvis stood by Gu Mengmeng's side the whole time. He was extremely displeased with Kanwa hugging Gu Mengmeng, but could only bear with it due to Gu Mengmeng's love for the 4 children. Seeing Kanwa grimace in pain, she snorted coldly and said, "That was an ugly win." "You." Kanwa felt so embarrassed that he was flustered. Just as he was about to challenge her, he felt his waist tighten. Lowering his head, he met Gu Mengmeng's gentle gaze and forcefully swallowed back his words. He snorted and said, "I won't argue with you on account of my mother." Gu Mengmeng could not stop laughing. She reckoned that the only first-level orcs who dared to speak so arrogantly in front of a 5th-level beast like Elvis were the few cubs in her family, so, from a certain perspective, her sons were at least more courageous than others and very charismatic. "Quick, tell mother, what happened to you guys yesterday?" Yesterday was the first day the 4 little ones officially became independent. It was also the first battle the 4 of them cooperated in. Gu Mengmeng had wanted to peek last night but Elvis stopped her. He said that she needed to adapt to the fact that the children had grown up and needed to face the world independently. Upon hearing Gu Mengmeng asking about yesterday's incident, Kanwa's eyes immediately lit up. He pulled Gu Mengmeng to sit at the side and said, "Mother, let me tell you, the 4 of us went to fight a 3rd-level beast last night." 3rd level. 3 level 1 beasts and 1 level 2 beast, against a level 3 beast. Gu Mengmeng frowned. The difference in levels was absolute. It was the same when Leah completely defeated Nina's partner. She clearly remembered that Leah had taken less than a few seconds to settle Nina's over 10 partners. TSK, these 4 stinking brats, don't they know to pick the soft ones to pinch? When stray beasts fought, they would immediately kill. How would they dare? Biting her lips, Gu Mengmeng held back her scolding words. The children were in high spirits and Gu Mengmeng did not want to dampen their spirits with a bucket of cold water. Kanwa gesticulated as he talked about how brave the 4 of them were last night. From time to time, he even pulled the other 3 brothers to cooperate and show the scene to Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng was infected by Kanwa's excitement and listened to his story nervously. Elvis and Leah were not very interested. After all, to them, the level of battle that Kanwa mentioned was not worth mentioning at all. Chapter 1001. But we were still not his match. At that time, De and Lu were all knocked down and could not even get up. But that stray beast had no intention of letting us off. Kanwa suddenly changed the topic and his mood sank. Even Gu Mengmeng was so nervous that she held her breath and clenched her fists tightly. Even her brows were furrowed together. Just as that 3rd-level beast was about to charge over and bite us to death, 2nd brother rushed over like a deity and blocked our way. Suddenly, Kanwa's tone became louder. He turned and gestured to Qi Xian with both hands. Although I could only see 2nd brother's back view, that back view was enough to win me over. He was tall, imposing and determined. He fulfilled all my fantasies of being a hero. Gu Mengmeng listened to Kanwa's fanboy narration and couldn't help smiling. And then, Kanwa lowered his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng with regret and grievance. He pouted and said, "Then I fainted. When I woke up, the 4 of us were already in the cave, and we don't know where that 3rd-level beast went." Gu Mengmeng nodded. Fainted? Gu Mengmeng was a little speechless. He actually fainted at the most exciting part. Kanwa nodded and said with an aggrieved expression, "Yes, I fainted." Afterwards, no matter how I asked 2nd brother to tell me what happened, he wouldn't tell me. "Mom, why don't you help me ask?" Gu Mengmeng looked up at Qi Xian. Qi Xian pursed his lips and looked like he was in a difficult position. It was obvious he didn't want to tell her. Gu Mengmeng didn't want to put Qi Xian in a difficult position. You are so close to your second brother. If he doesn't even want to tell you, why would he tell me? At your age, don't you all have some secrets that you can tell the whole world, but you're not willing to tell your parents? Kanwoo raised his brows. No way. I have no secrets from Mum. No matter what it is, as long as Mum asks me, I will tell you. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and stood on tiptoes to rub Kanwoo's little head. I will listen. Kanwoo shook Gu Mengmeng's arm coquettishly. Mom, then help me ask second brother. Let me tell you, he is afraid of you now. If you ask him, he won't dare to not tell you. Gu Mengmeng pointed at herself. Afraid of me? By right, she had always been a loving mother, right? He had never said a harsh word to his sons, let alone hit them. There was no reason to be afraid of her, right? Kanwoo whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ear, he is afraid that you will cry. Once you cry, he will be at his wit's end. Gu Mengmeng blushed at the thought of how she had cried in front of her son that day. Before he could say, don't mess around, Ma Yingguo stumbled forward and knocked down the other three like a bowling ball. The four brothers fell into a ball, and the youngsters, who were already covered in injuries, instantly wailed. And the main culprit, Elvis, only used one arm to carry Gu Mengmeng and said in a condescending manner, if you dare to make my female cry again, I will kill you. Kanwoo wanted to explode but was pulled back by Jiaoyu. Then Jiaoyu climbed up and patted the dirt off his body. He tilted his head and said, there are loopholes in your words. Elvis raised his eyebrows but did not say anything. Chapter 1002. Jiaoyu purposely smiled until his eyes turned into crescents, because he looked the most like Gu Mengmeng when he smiled like that. If the four of us die, Mummy will definitely be the one crying the most. Jiaoyu blinked his eyes and purposely brought his face in front of Elvis. So, do you want Mummy to cry or not? Elvis reached out a large hand and caressed Jiaoyu's face. I won't let her cry. Jiaoyu held on to Elvis's wrist with both hands and tilted his face to the side. His eyes peeked out from his palm. If you don't want Mummy to cry, you can't do anything to the four of us, right? Elvis gritted his teeth. This fellow was his son. He looked like Gu Mengmeng, but his brain was like Li's. Facing this fellow, Elvis could not muster up any strength at all. Shaking his head in exasperation, he still put Gu Mengmeng down. Then, he grabbed the back of Jiaoyu's neck and kicked Kanwoo. Glancing at Heda, he said, follow me out to hunt. Kanwoo was just about to reject him when Elvis said coldly, if you want to quickly level up and catch up to Qi Xian, you have to work harder than him. Kanwoo's words were stuck in his throat. Looking at Qi Xian, he did not say anything before following Elvis out. Leah started a fire outside the cave and prepared to cook. At that moment, only Qi Xian and Gu Mengmeng were left in the cave. Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis was creating an opportunity for her, and she did not have much time left. Based on past experience, Qi Xian would definitely leave by noon the next day after spending the night at home. Gu Mengmeng tugged at Qi Xuan's hand and gently touched the wound on his face. Does it still hurt? Qi Xian shook his head. He seemed to be hesitating about something, but he still opened his mouth. Last night, he saved us. This him, no need to ask. It must be Cole. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and nodded slightly. Actually, she had guessed it. If it was someone else, Qi Xian would not have hidden it. He could just say it out loud. The reason why he did not say it despite Kanwoo's pestering was because he knew that the other three brothers hated Cole as much as Gu Mengmeng. They would rather die than let Cole save them. He's doing this for you. Qi Xian was calm, his tone unperturbed. Mom, if I'm willing to come back and be a good son by your side forever, can you consider accepting him? Gu Mengmeng was stunned, so his son gave her a third option. Other than abandoning his son or taking a risk out of desperation, there was a third option. She had said that her son was more important than her own life. Now, it was time to fulfill her promise. Was she willing to sacrifice herself, suffer a little, disgust herself a little, to accept Cole? As long as she was willing to sacrifice, be willing to be wronged, and be willing to be disgusted, her son would not have to bear the risk of stacking the bewitching spell. Gu Mengmeng lowered her body, as if all her rationality had been sucked out. There was only one voice echoing in his mind: she doesn't want to. She could die for Qi Xian, but she was not willing to accept Cole for Qi Xian. She was not as great as she thought she was. She really wasn't a good mother. Chapter 1003. He schemed against you, faked a kidnapping and lured you to solder. He just wanted a chance to be alone with you and develop feelings for you. If scheming is unforgivable, then why did you accept Leah in the first place? Gu Mengmeng didn't say anything and just looked at Qi Xian quietly. She didn't know what to say. She just felt as if her heart had been placed into a washing machine and was spinning frantically to dehydrate it. It was a feeling of pain, but she couldn't pinpoint where it was. She could only stare blankly at Qi Xian, the son she owed the most and wanted to snatch back. After that, you were lured to the Snake King Valley and Ellie almost took your life. You only know that Elvis and Leah almost lost their lives in order to decipher the trap so that Snake could rush to the scene in time to be your hero. But why didn't you think about whether those traps were to prevent them from saving you or to guide them to the right path? Because she had inherited Snake's memories, Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis and Leah were trying their best to destroy the traps that Cole had set up when she was being beaten up by Ellie. Those traps looked dangerous but only caused Elvis and Leah to be seriously injured. And it was indeed because of those traps that Snake could find her so quickly. Pursing her lips into a straight line, Gu Mengmeng didn't say anything and just looked at Qi Xian quietly. Perhaps, after hearing what he said today, she would understand why Qi Xian insisted on staying by Cole's side. Wouldn't that mean she could find a fourth path? Mother, have you ever thought about it? With Cole's abilities and methods, if he wanted to retaliate, would Elvis and Leah really be his match? He had lured you to the Snake King Valley, and what was his real motive, you still don't understand until now. Gu Mengmeng was stunned and frowned. Qi Xian realized that he was too emotional and took 2 deep breaths before continuing. From the outcome, you obtained the tier of the beast deity and became the most powerful existence in the beast world, right? Gu Mengmeng's heart skipped a beat. So, Snake's death was within Cole's calculations. The difficulty of those traps and the number of traps were not set up randomly, but they were set up at the right time. It was because they knew that Snake could not bear to see her suffer and would definitely give her the tier of the beast deity when he saw her dying state, right? Good, very good. From now on, there was another score to settle between her and Cole. Mom, you always say that he is scheming against you, but haven't you noticed? Every time he schemed against you, the final result was that you got more. Even if you did not accept him because of his cruel methods, how clean could the things that Elvis and Leah had done in the past be? Mother, I'm not begging you to treat him like how you treat Leah and Elvis. You just need to do what you did in solder previously and allow him to stay by your side. Even if he doesn't have any status, even if you don't take a look at him, it's fine. Can't you just give him a chance? Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, as if hesitating. Qi Xuan's gaze was fixed on Gu Mengmeng, all his attention focused on her. He anxiously waited for her to give him an answer the moment she lifted her head. After a long while, Gu Mengmeng finally raised her head slowly. Chapter 1004. Qi Xian was taken aback, as if he did not understand. He just felt that he could not shift his gaze away, as if Gu Mengmeng's eyes were glued to him. Gu Mengmeng's hand gently caressed Qi Xuan's little face. She said gently and warmly, "I'm sorry, Qi Xian. I am just a selfish woman. I am not willing to sacrifice my life to be with someone I do not love, nor am I willing to lose my son. So, if you blame me in the future, I will accept it all, because I deserve it. Mother. Qi Xian seemed to have guessed what Gu Mengmeng wanted to do. His eyes were trembling slightly, and every part of his body was resisting, but he could not break free. His lips trembled violently. He was already a second-level beast, but now he was like a helpless child. He stared at Gu Mengmeng and begged, "I beg you, don't, I'm sorry." A tear rolled down from the corner of Gu Mengmeng's eye, moistening her bitter smile. She waved a hand gently in front of Qishuan's eyes, before saying, "You are my child, the flesh and blood of mother's heart. You should live a carefree life like your brothers. Stay away from Cole, he is too dangerous. Promise mother, don't let mother worry, all right?" Mother. Qi Xian was struggling. His subconscious was constantly resisting Gu Mengmeng's hypnosis. But Gu Mengmeng had been secretly releasing the fox seductive fragrance the moment Elvis brought the three little ones out. Now, the fox seductive fragrance in the cave had reached a certain level. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng's hypnosis technique originated from Wang Xiaoxin's knowledge and understanding, so it could be said to be at the peak of perfection. So even though Qi Xian was resisting, he could not break free. Seeing how Qi Xian was trying so hard to break free from her hypnosis, Gu Mengmeng felt very upset. She knew that she could not turn back now. If the hypnosis failed, or if Qi Xian woke up one day, she might lose this son forever. Sniffling, Gu Mengmeng allowed her tears to roll down her cheeks. She said in a nasal voice, "I beg you, Qi Xian, mother really cannot live without you, just stay by mother's side, all right? Mother will protect you well in the future. I will never let anyone have the chance to hurt you, make use of you or take you away. I beg you, all right?" No. Qishuan's eyes were already starting to glaze over. A drop of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, stinging Gu Mengmeng's eyes. He was clenching his teeth to prevent himself from being controlled by Gu Mengmeng's bewitching spell, so much so that his gums were bleeding. Gu Mengmeng held Qishuan's face with both hands. At that moment, she felt as if her heart was being torn apart. It was as if she had done something very cruel and the victim was her own son. "Qi Xian, forget about Cole. He is not a good man. Don't go near him again, don't." "Aw dash." Qi Xian suddenly howled in pain and gave Gu Mengmeng a hard shove. He struggled free from Gu Mengmeng's hand, but he also lost consciousness and fainted. "Qi Xian, Qi Xian." Gu Mengmeng ignored her pathetic state and scrambled to Qishuan's side. She hugged him and patted his face gently. Leah heard the commotion and rushed in. He helped Gu Mengmeng place Qi Xian on the bed and sighed. "Did you succeed?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I don't know." He suddenly fainted. Chapter 1005. Leah, I realized that I no longer have the right to scold others for being selfish. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Lee's arms, but her eyes were moist as she gazed at Qi Xian. Her voice was choked with sobs. "I have become what I hate the most, selfish and greedy. I am unwilling to sacrifice myself, but still forced Qi Xian to stay by my side." Gu Mengmeng wanted to laugh, but the moment she opened her mouth, she started crying. "I feel that I have become the kind of parent that children hate the most. Judging the friends of the children based on their own preferences, forcefully stopping the children from interacting with what I see as bad friends. No matter how important the bad friends are to the children, I forcefully forbid them from interacting just because I don't like them. Am I a bad mother? If that's the case, it is right that Qi Xian does not want to stay by my side, because I am a bad mother." Sob sob. "Silly girl." Leah sighed softly. He hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly. Only then could she feel that she was not alone and that he was still around. Kissing Gu Mingming's tears, he said, "If you are really selfish, you will not be feeling so upset now." Selfish people can find millions of reasons to justify their selfishness, to make their selfishness seem righteous. Gu Mengmeng cried silently. She did not cry tragically, but the way her shoulders twitched made Li's heart ache. In the past, whenever the females in the tribe cried, Leah would usually laugh and say, "Cry for a while and stop crying when no one cares. Don't care." But now, he could not bear to put Gu Mengmeng down and let her sit here crying alone. "Xiao Meng, we all know that you are doing this because you love Qi Xian. You are afraid that he will be in more danger if he stays by Cole's side. You are doing this for his own good." "For his own good, in the end, the one who hurts him the most is me, the one who says that I am doing this for his own good." Gu Mingming's heart throbbed as she gripped Li's arm tightly. "Qi Xian gave me a third option. As long as I am willing to sacrifice myself, he will be willing to come back, I heard that." Leah said, "But, you know very well. If I accepted Cole, the situation would become a fight to the death between Elvis, Cole, and me. We will not allow any male to force you against your will. Based on Qishuan's relationship with Cole, he will definitely help Cole. Then either Elvis and I killed Cole and Qi Xian, or they killed us. Either way, it would be worse than the current situation, wouldn't it?" Gu Mengmeng knew that Leah was purposely telling her the worst-case scenario so that she could relieve the guilt in her heart. If she did not have Snake's 1,000 years of memories, if she did not have Wang Xiaoxin's psychological knowledge, perhaps she would become happy as Leah wished. But, the cruelest thing about fate was that it took away the ifs and left only the results. And in the end, she had disregarded Qishuan's wishes and forcefully removed Cole from his life. Gu Mengmeng did not say anything else and just leaned on Li's shoulder, crying non-stop. Because of guilt, but also because of heartache. She would never forget the look on Qishuan's face when he resisted her hypnosis. He hated her. Chapter 1006. Qi Xian had been unconscious for 3 days, and Gu Mengmeng had accompanied him for 3 days without taking off her clothes. Her eyes were already bloodshot, but Gu Mengmeng refused to rest. She held on to Qishuan's hand with both hands and stared at him without blinking, as if she was afraid that Qi Xian would disappear the moment she closed her eyes. Finally, those slender eyelashes quivered slightly, and Gu Mengmeng immediately tensed up as if she had been electrified. Even her breathing became extremely light, as if only the person who had been unconscious for 3 days could attract her attention in this entire world. Qi Xian hooked his finger gently, then his eyelashes quivered even more. Every change tugged at Gu Mingming's heart, and her tightly pursed lips were so pale that not a single trace of blood could be seen. Finally, Qi Xian opened his eyes and stared blankly at the ceiling. He was completely expressionless, and there was no sign of life in him. He just stared at the sky quietly. "Qi Xian, Qi Xian." Gu Mingming's voice was hoarse. She tried her best not to sound tired, but she had not slept for 3 days. If not for Snake's strength, she would have collapsed long ago. Qi Xian ignored Gu Mingming's call and did not respond at all. Gu Mengmeng was extremely afraid. She gently held on to Qishuan's hand and called out again, "Qi Xian, I am your mother." Qi Xian turned his head slightly and looked at Gu Mengmeng. His gaze was as if he was looking at a stranger, devoid of any emotions. Gu Mingming's dry eyes met Qishuan's, and neither of them said a word. Until Qi Xian silently closed his eyes, and then returned to his sleeping position, as if he had never woken up. "Qi." Elvis gently patted Gu Mingming's shoulder and said, "Since he is awake, he should be fine. Maybe he is just not used to it yet. Give him some time, don't worry too much." Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and did not say a word. Elvis carried her into his arms and said, "You have not slept for 3 days. Now that he is awake, you should be at ease. You should at least sleep for a while. Otherwise, he will be fine, but you will fall. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. I don't dare to sleep. I am afraid that once I wake up, Qi Xian will be gone. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead. Leah and I are guarding the house, while Wabi is coiled up at the door. Even if he has 3 heads and 6 arms, he can't escape. Sleep for a while, all right? Leah also sat beside Gu Mengmeng and promised, be good and sleep, I will guard him. If there's anything wrong with him, I'll wake you up immediately, okay? Gu Mengmeng knew that her emotions affected the entire family. Not just Elvis and Leah, even the 3 little ones and Wabi had not been feeling well for the past 3 days. Not wanting them to worry even more, Gu Mengmeng finally nodded. She tilted her head and leaned into Elvis's arms, slowly closing her eyes. Gu Mengmeng did not sleep well and woke up after half a day. The moment she opened her eyes, she realized that Qi Xian wasn't on the bed and all her drowsiness disappeared in an instant. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng, who was struggling to jump off the ground, and comforted her softly. Don't panic, Qi Xian is fine. He's sitting at the door. Chapter 1007. Gu Mengmeng felt her heart settle back into her stomach. She slowly relaxed and stood up from Elvis's arms. She slowly walked to Qishuan's side and did not say anything. She just sat there quietly with him. They sat there until the night sky was dark and the moonlight shone brightly. Qi Xian stood up, still not saying a word. He just circled around Gu Mengmeng and returned to the cave. He laid on the bed he had woken up on, maintaining a supine position and slowly closed his eyes. It was obvious that he had fallen asleep. Gu Mengmeng also wanted to stand up but her legs were numb from sitting for so long. The moment she stood up, her entire body tilted. Luckily, Elvis reacted quickly and caught her, placing her in his arms. Don't worry, it will be all right. Gu Mengmeng could only believe Elvis's words now that things had come to this. For the next 10 days, Qi Xian would wake up in the morning and sit at the door without moving. During this period, Heda and his brothers would bring him food. He would eat whatever they gave him, and if they didn't, he wouldn't eat. Then, he would sit there until midnight before returning to bed to sleep. He ignored everyone and did not say a single word. Gu Mengmeng was so worried that she could not think of a solution. In order not to make her worry, Elvis and Leah had used both the carrot and the stick on Qi Xian without her knowledge. But that fellow remained unmoved no matter how hard they tried. Be it Elvis's physical threats or Lee's verbal attacks, none of them could make Qi Xian say a word. Not even a change in his expression had happened. Until this day, Cole came. His arrival was tacitly approved by Gu Mengmeng. Otherwise, he would not be able to get past Wabi. Cole stood in front of Qi Xian and just looked at him disdainfully. He called out softly, "Little Xian." Qi Xian looked up in a daze. His eyes met Cole's empty gaze. His expression was still blank but his brows were slightly furrowed. He slowly got up and stood in front of Cole. After a long while, he turned back to the cave and lay back on the bed. He continued to sleep without a word. Cole stood at the door and glanced at Gu Mengmeng. He chuckled. "Oh Gu, I waited for you for 10 days. Why didn't you come to see me?" Gu Mengmeng frowned and did not say a word. She just turned around and sat by Qishuan's bedside. Holding his hand, she quietly watched as he closed his eyes to sleep again. Cole chuckled. "Now that Qi Xian has returned to your side, I no longer have anything to threaten you with. You don't want to kill me." Gu Mengmeng slowly released Qishuan's hand and gently stroked his hair. Then, she stood up and walked out of the cave. Due to her height, she had to look up at Cole. Over 10 days of worry had made her extremely haggard. When this face appeared in front of Cole at such a close distance, Cole frowned involuntarily. Do you have a way? Although it was a question, it sounded like a statement. Let's talk about a condition. You help me save Qi Xian and I will do something for you. Anything? Cole's question implied that he could save Qi Xian and had already thought of the conditions. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. I cannot harm my partner, family, or friends. I can do anything else. Chapter 1008. Sure. Gu Mengmeng answered without a hint of hesitation. Cole did not seem surprised by Gu Mengmeng's answer. He just narrowed his eyes and asked in a playful tone, You can also put up with accepting me. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly. Her entire body was trembling, but she still nodded and said, Sure. Cole suddenly laughed and waved his hands, saying, You don't have to be so angry. I will not make such a request, after all. I want to be the most special existence in your life, the one and only kind. You already have 2 partners, I don't care. He didn't care. Not only did Gu Mengmeng not feel the slightest bit of anger from being despised, she felt as if a huge burden had been lifted off her shoulders. Because in her predictions, this was the most disgusting and worst-case scenario. As long as it was not this, she did not mind breaking one of her arms or both of her legs, or even taking her life in exchange for Qishuan's safety. Cole pointed at Gu Mengmeng's neck and said, I want you to cut off the guardian mark on the back of your neck and completely break all ties with Snake. How about that? Gu Mengmeng's loosened fists instantly clenched tightly. It was not that she could not bear to part with Snake's power, nor was she afraid of getting hurt. It was just that this mark was the only thing Snake had left for her. He had protected her in 2 lifetimes, regardless of the cost. Now, she had to forcefully cut off all evidence of his existence and destroy all traces of him. Can't bear to part with him. Cole seemed rather unhappy. His gaze drifted towards Qi Xian, who was lying on the bed in the house. He said, You don't really love this son of yours. Since that's the case, why don't you let me bring Qi Xian away? If I can wake him up once, I can wake him up a second time. Or, do you like this obedient son who won't disobey you so much that you want him to live obediently by your side for the rest of his life? Gu Mengmeng looked up and took a step forward. Without any warning, that hand pierced through Cole's chest and dug a bloody hole in his right chest. Cole frowned and groaned, but did not dodge or struggle. Instead, he suddenly laughed and looked down at Gu Mengmeng's wrist that was stuck in his body. His smile gradually became crazier. Ha! Ha! My Gu has grown up, you finally have sharp claws. And, that's great, the first person you scratched was me. Gu Mengmeng retracted her hand expressionlessly, while Elvis and Leah, who had smelled the scent of blood, rushed to her side the second after Gu Mengmeng's hand pierced through Cole's chest. Gu Mengmeng retracted her hand. From her fingers to her wrist, it was stained with blood and a fishy smell permeated the air. Gu Mengmeng raised her hands horizontally and said, Dirty, I need to wash my hands. Leah frowned and did not say anything. He just went back to fetch some clean water and came back to wash Gu Mengmeng's hands carefully. Gu Mengmeng stared straight at Cole and said, If you have any more ideas about my son, next time, I will dig a hole on your left side. No, Gu. Cole did not care that his wound was bleeding profusely. He smiled like a pervert and said, If you want to torture me, you can't dig the left side of my chest. Because if my heart was ripped out, I would die. That way, you can't torture me anymore. Can you bear for me to die so comfortably, so easily? Don't you feel that you should let me suffer more pain and torture, so that you can vent the anger in your heart? So, if there's a next time, you should dig this side on the right side, right here. Dig out the newly grown flesh again. That's the most painful part, do you understand? Aside from the topic, I saw some readers saying that it was fine to not have a son like Qi Xian, since he was not the only child anyway. But to a mother, the value of a child has nothing to do with the number of children. Every child is precious. You can't abandon them just because they are disobedient or bring you trouble. Today's update ends here. Chapter 1009. Gu Mengmeng ignored Cole. She just looked at her hands that had been washed clean by Leah, before turning to walk back into the cave. As she walked, she asked, "Wabi, how many days has it been since you last ate? Are you hungry?" Wabi stuck out his tongue lazily and narrowed his eyes dangerously. "Yeah, a little hungry. I want to eat a 5th-level fox to replenish my energy." Gu Mengmeng didn't say anything else and just continued walking into the cave. Cole had actually requested for Gu Mengmeng to dig out Snake's mark on the back of his neck. Even if Gu Mengmeng didn't say anything, Wabi would not let Cole off. But if Gu Mengmeng didn't express her stance, Wabi might spare Cole's life for Qishuan's sake. But now, Gu Mengmeng didn't want to be led by the nose by Cole anymore. Qi Xian was her son. She must have a way to save him. If she couldn't make him return to normal, then she would raise this son for the rest of his life. Back in the cave, Elvis sighed. "Why do you have to do it yourself? Don't you still have me?" Gu Mengmeng used a beast skin to wipe her hands. "I didn't want to kill him. I was just too angry and needed to vent." Elvis didn't say anything else and just quietly accompanied Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng's hands had already been washed clean by Leah and she had also used a beast skin to wipe them for a long time. But even so, Gu Mengmeng still felt that there was a bloody smell on her hands that she couldn't get rid of. "Mother." That soft call instantly calmed Gu Mengmeng down. She didn't have the leisure to care about her hands anymore. She just went to Qishuan's bedside and looked at him, who was staring at the ceiling of the cave, waiting for him to continue. "Did I forget something?" Gu Mengmeng gently caressed Qishuan's face. "Why do you say that?" Qi Xian stayed silent for a long time. "I don't know. I just feel. I seem to have lost something very important. But I can't remember what it is." Cole was very important to Qi Xian. She knew this when she hypnotized him. So, even though she was angry, she only dug out Cole's right chest and didn't dig out his heart. Gu Mengmeng forced a smile. "If you can't remember, that means it's not that important. Why don't you cherish what you have now?" Qi Xian didn't say anything else. He just slowly closed his eyes and didn't say anything. Gu Mengmeng remained silent for a long time until Qishuan's breathing became light and rhythmic. Wabi and Cole were still locked in a fierce battle at the door, but Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered with them. In any case, Wabi would not be the one at a disadvantage. "Hubby, I want to see my father." Gu Mengmeng leaned her head against Elvis's chest, her gaze fixed on Qi Xian. Elvis thought Gu Mengmeng had not had a good rest these few days. At least her body was in a sleeping state when she went to the beast deity's place, so it could be considered a rest. So she nodded and said, "All right, I will watch over Qi Xian for you. I will not let anything happen to him." Gu Mengmeng nodded, then slowly closed her eyes. Both physically and mentally exhausted, the moment Gu Mengmeng relaxed, rather than saying that she fell asleep, it would be more accurate to say that she fainted. However, this did not prevent her from entering the dream world to be a filial daughter. At the end of the white fog, she saw that 2-seater bench. But strangely, that patch of green was no longer 2 square meters in size. It had expanded by several times. If it was originally the size of a bed, it now looked at least the size of a basketball court. Aside from the topic, cries for Cole to be killed rang out. Doesn't this mean that the villain I created is quite successful? Chapter 10:10. It was rare that the beast deity was not sitting on the long bench waiting for her leisurely. Instead, he stood at the entrance with his arms wide open. The moment he saw Gu Mengmeng, he immediately pulled her into his arms and said with a fatherly benevolence, "My precious daughter, you have suffered." Gu Mengmeng had not cried since Qi Xian woke up. The tears that she had held back for more than 10 days burst at the beast deity's words. She did not dare to cry in front of Elvis and Leah. She was also afraid that her son would see her tears. She had a hard time holding it in. Her chest felt stuffy and uncomfortable as if it had been stuffed with cotton. The beast deity patted her on the back and said, "Silly girl, why hold it in all by yourself? Why didn't you come back earlier? You still have your father." Gu Mengmeng cried for a long time until she had vented all the pent-up emotions in her heart. Then, she looked up at the beast deity with her swollen eyes. "Can you answer my question first? I am not in the mood to watch television now." The beast god nodded. "What do you want to ask?" Gu Mengmeng said, "I hypnotized Qi Xian, but the effects were strange. Qi Xian is like a doll whose soul has been hollowed out, living like a zombie." "Father, did I do something wrong?" The beast deity caressed Gu Mengmeng's head and said with heartache and helplessness, "You have already done very well. He will be fine." Gu Mengmeng's eyes widened in an instant and her tears were locked by hope. Her voice trembled slightly as she asked carefully, "Really?" It was only 2 words, but they expressed her uneasiness. Her slender fingers gripped the beast deity's sleeves tightly. Her fingertips turned white and trembled uncontrollably. The beast deity held Gu Mengmeng's hand. "Didn't you already give the soul of the forest to Qi Xian?" Gu Mengmeng was stunned for half a second, then she nodded. The beast deity continued, "The soul of the forest has 2 leaves. The first one has already bloomed. It saved Qi Xuan's life, right?" Gu Mengmeng continued nodding. The beast deity said, "There is 1 more leaf. When the time is right, it will bloom. At that time, Qi Xian will return to normal." Gu Mengmeng asked anxiously, "Then, when will it unfold?" The beast god shook his head. "Wait." Gu Mengmeng's face darkened. "How long do I have to wait? My heart aches seeing Qi Xian in such a half-dead state." The beast deity chuckled. "My heart aches when I see my daughter so heartbroken." Gu Mengmeng looked up at the beast deity's benevolent smile. She felt a lump in her throat and could not say a word. So this was how it felt to be doted on by a father. After the age of 5, she had forgotten about it. The beast deity placed his large hand on Gu Mengmeng's head and gently caressed it. He then said, "You must learn to trust your own children. They are not as weak as you think. Just like you, there are many times when you do things that surprise me and make me proud. For example, Gu Mengmeng was a mother in front of Qi Xian, but in front of the beast deity, she truly felt like a daughter. The feeling of a 19-year-old daughter pestering her father for comfort was really good." The beast deity smiled gently, looking as though he was deep in thought. After a moment of silence, he said, "For example, you often come back to watch television with me. When I went to the meeting last time, I asked others. Their children didn't go home to watch TV with them." Chapter 10:11. "Alright, accompany me to watch the drama first, we can talk about the rest later." The beast deity pulled Gu Mengmeng to sit on the long bench and brushed away the white fog. Knowing that Qi Xian had the soul of the forest to protect him and would eventually get better, Gu Mengmeng felt much better. Immortals wouldn't lie, would they? At least her father did not lie to her. With her mood relaxed, Gu Mengmeng stopped crying. She held onto the beast deity's arm and leaned her head on his shoulder, accompanying him to watch the drama. The lights in the villa were still dim, but even so, it could not hide Gu Mengmeng's distress. She instinctively wanted to snatch the love letter from Snake's hand, but how could Snake let her succeed? With just a light wave of his hand, he had the absolute advantage based on the difference in height. Gu Mengmeng could not snatch it by force, so she could only smile awkwardly and say, You still kept it? Your first love letter, of course I have to keep it. Snake's smile was light, but it carried a hint of settling scores after the fall. Gu Mengmeng mumbled softly, It's not for you. Snake acted as if he did not hear her, but his face darkened further. His slender fingers took out the letter from the envelope. One corner of the letter had been rubbed so hard by him that it looked like it was about to crack. His 2 fingers just happened to pinch on that crease. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to tell that the part below those 2 fingers had been ravaged by him. I like you, like a sweet dream, in the midst of warmth. I like you, like the rain falling on the tropics and the poles, from thousands of miles away. I like you, like the smoke from the kitchen chimney, the snow and the rain falling from the pears. I like you, like the clouds chasing after the wind, without asking where it came from. I like you, 10 miles of spring wind cannot compare to you. Snake read every word, his tone and sentences perfectly timed. His eyes were fixated on Gu Mingming's face, as if the letter in his hand was just a prop. This person had already memorized the contents of the letter, as if the letter in his hand was just evidence that Gu Mengmeng could not deny. Are you sure that someone like Zhang Jinqing, who has never scored double digits in Chinese, can understand this kind of sentence? Gu Mengmeng had already been forced into a corner by Snake and had nowhere to hide. When he leaned over, Gu Mengmeng pressed herself against the wall, looking as if she wanted to embed herself into the wall. She was a little timid and helpless, but this made the anger in Snake's chest gradually dissipate. In any case, Zhang Jinqing had never seen this love letter before. Apart from him, no one had seen it. And the person who wrote this love letter now belonged to him and only him. However, he couldn't let her pass so easily. Otherwise, he didn't know how bold she would be next time. Cupping his hands beside Gu Mingming's ears, Snake's face pressed closely against the tip of Gu Mingming's nose. His warm and ambiguous breath blew onto Gu Mingming's face. Snake said in a low voice, You don't even like him that much, so you never intended for him to understand or accept this love letter from the start. Gu Coward shrunk her neck and said softly, I didn't know that his Chinese wasn't good. Snake gritted his teeth. Who was the one who said she was a coward? In the 19 years of his rebirth, no one dared to go against his wishes when he was so angry. He had already given her a way out, but she still refused to come down. His teeth were itching, he really wanted to bite her to death and end it once and for all. But, he knew that he couldn't bear to. Aside from the topic, everyone had been disgusted by Cole recently. Chapter 10-12. Now that you know, do you intend to write a new one that matches his reading level? Do you need me to guide you? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. I already have a boyfriend, why would I write a love letter to someone else? His anger dissipated in an instant. Even Snake himself found it unbelievable. So he was so easy to coax. Just one sentence from her could pull him into the clouds. All the things that she had done to make him unhappy could be written off. His large hand wrapped around Gu Mingming's waist and lifted her up, pressing her against his abdomen. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. It was a lingering and loving kiss, as if it was a small reward. But I still mind that your first love letter wasn't written to me. Your first words of love weren't meant for me. You racked your brains to choose the right words to write, but they didn't belong to me. Gu Mengmeng was a little breathless from Snake's kiss. Her body turned soft as she laid on Snake's chest. That was copied by me, Snake's eyes lit up and his mood improved. Gu Mengmeng was a little shy. She lowered her head and said, I saw a sentence on an app. I thought it was beautiful, so I copied it down as a love letter. I didn't think of it myself, ha. Snake was happy again. His woman did not spend her time on others. Her love letter was so half-hearted. It was obvious that she really did not like Zhang Jinqing that much. Even so, I am still jealous. Snake hooked Gu Mingming's chin gently. So, tell me, how are you going to make it up to me? Jealous? He was the great CEO. He was high up in the clouds. He was a child favored by God. Mortals could only look up to him. How could he feel jealousy? Just because her first love letter was for someone else. I will also copy one for you. Gu Mengmeng asked tentatively. Snake raised his eyebrows. Copy. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. She immediately corrected herself. I will think of it myself, I will think of it myself. Snake planted another kiss on Gu Mingming's lips. Only then did he let her go. Seeing her running for her life upstairs and slamming the door, Snake could not help but smile. He heard the sound of her breathing heavily behind the door, trying to calm her racing heart. I look forward to it, my Tu Meng. The next day was the weekend and Gu Mengmeng did not need to go to school. But as she was used to waking up early for work, she still woke up at 7 a.m. sharp. Just as she put on her clothes, she heard someone knocking on the door. Rubbing her eyes, she opened the door and saw Snake leaning against the door frame, smiling at her. Good morning. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for half a second before slamming the door shut. She quickly retreated into the washroom to wash her face and brush her teeth. Gu Mengmeng held onto her chest and took a deep breath before opening the door again. Snake was still standing there in the same position as before, as if he was frozen in time. Even his smile was the same loving one. Good morning, Senior. It was her first time greeting her boyfriend and she felt an indescribable sweetness growing in her heart, spreading throughout her entire body. Snake held on to Gu Mingming's waist and pecked her on the lips. Let's go downstairs for breakfast. You made this. Gu Mengmeng looked at the exquisite Western-style breakfast on the table and was stunned. Chapter 10:13. Snake scooped up a little potato avocado salad with a small spoon and brought it to Gu Mingming's mouth. He looked at her gently, waiting for her to open her mouth. Gu Mingming's face was extremely red. She had never been fed by anyone since she could remember. She could not take it when Snake was teasing her so early in the morning. That. I can do it myself. Gu Mengmeng said softly. He held on to her hand that was about to take the spoon and pulled it before wrapping it around his waist. She sat in front of the dining table while he stood leaning against it. The sunlight shone through the European-style wooden windows, casting a warm glow on Snake's back. His slender and very good-looking hand held a small spoon and stopped it by her lips. He smiled faintly and asked, If you can do everything yourself, then why do you still need a boyfriend like me? Gu Mingming's heart was about to jump out of her throat. Luckily she was sitting down, or else her legs would have given way and she would have fallen to the ground. Ah! Snake let out a soft sound, indicating for her to open her mouth. Being stared at by him, Gu Mengmeng obediently opened her mouth, allowing him to place that small piece of potato avocado salad into her mouth. Then, he looked at her with a gentle and expectant gaze and asked, Is it delicious? The tip of Gu Mingming's tongue was numb and she could not taste anything at all. Now that the blood in her body was boiling, who would know if the potato avocado salad was delicious? But even if she could not taste anything, Gu Mengmeng still nodded obediently. Not for any other reason but because his teasing this early in the morning had already made her feel that the whole world was filled with sweet pink bubbles. Was it important what she was eating? Was it important? Not at all. The smile on Snake's face widened. He leaned forward and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. His nimble tongue swept into Gu Mingming's mouth, sucking in the lingering aftertaste between her teeth. Getting up, Snake gently wiped away the saliva he left on Gu Mingming's lips and chuckled. Yeah, I'll remember it. I'll cook for you according to this taste in the future. Gu Mingming's face was so red that it looked like blood was about to drip out. She pushed Snakel and said, What? I am your assistant, taking care of your 3 meals is my job. Let me cook for you in the future. Snake took 2 steps back and sat on the other seat beside Gu Mengmeng, creating a suitable distance between them. Of course, he wanted to stick to her like this, but her heartbeat was so loud that he could hear it clearly from so far away. If he didn't move away, she would have a heart attack, right? He liked that she was shy because of him, but he was also afraid that she would explode on the spot. After drinking a sip of milk elegantly, Snake replied, Your superior is your boyfriend, so you can have unspoken rules in the workplace. I accept and will cooperate fully. Cough, 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 cough. Gu Mengmeng choked and almost coughed out her lungs. What unspoken rules? Too shameful. Snake chuckled and caressed her back. Eat slowly, I won't snatch your food. Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and shook her head. It's better to keep a clear line between public and private affairs. Dating Snake was already stressful enough. If she did not even work, she would really feel that she was being kept by someone. Chapter 10:14. Pfft. Gu Mengmeng laughed softly. Using such a domineering tone of a CEO to say such willful words, coupled with that devilish face, it was an inexplicable harmony. Seeing her laugh, Snake's mood became even better. This was the happiest morning he had in 19 years. He could say good morning to her, then accompany her for breakfast. Gu Mengmeng felt a little uncomfortable under Snake's stare, so she changed the topic. Senior, you're really good at cooking. Snake chuckled softly, then looked at Gu Mengmeng with one hand supporting his cheek. I can do other things even better, do you want to try? Damn it. Gu Mengmeng had never been in a relationship before, but she felt that she understood it instantly. Gu Mingming's face, which had finally calmed down, instantly turned red again. She immediately lowered her head and stared at the salad on her plate, not daring to look at Snake. Snake knew that she had misunderstood, but refused to admit that he had purposely said those ambiguous words to lead her. He just said in a very normal tone, If I were to list out the things I know, it would probably be as thick as a Xinhua dictionary. Cooking is just one of the simplest. As thick as a Xinhua dictionary, Gu Mengmeng really wanted to say that Snake was bragging, but when she looked up at him, she strangely felt that he was speaking the truth. God was indeed biased, he seemed to be so good to Snake that it was infuriating. Then is there nothing you don't know? Gu Mengmeng sighed sorrowfully. Snake thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, there is one thing I don't know. What is it? Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. She wanted to learn this thing that Snake didn't know, so that at least she could win against him. Snake chuckled and pinched Gu Mingming's face. I won't leave you. Thump, thump, Gu Mingming's heart beat violently twice, then stopped for 3 beats. Lowering her head, she forcefully stuffed a mouthful of salad into her mouth. Don't talk when eating, don't talk when sleeping. Snake chuckled. He took in every interesting reaction on her face. Yes, these were the treasures that he had waited for her for 19 years. He couldn't waste even a single frame. Moreover, he decided not to tell her that the reason why he had learned so many things was so that he could do anything for her when she needed it. No matter how much he hated fire, he still insisted on standing next to the stove and learned all kinds of exquisite cooking methods from all over the world, just so that he could no longer take out roasted meat that was roasted black like charcoal and still had traces of blood on the inside for her to eat. He didn't want to see her get poisoned again after eating the food he gave her. He planned to pay for that mistake with every meal of his life. Tu Meng. Snake held Gu Mingming's hand and looked into her eyes. I will only borrow you once in this lifetime. This journey will be the rest of my life. I'm dating you with this belief. So, Tu Meng, answer me. You won't leave me, right? Gu Mengmeng hesitated for a moment, but still smiled and nodded her head. Never to leave. Gu Mengmeng was actually not confident. But God pretends not to hear the sweet words of lovers blown by the wind. Chapter 10-15. Snake had to accompany Gu Mengmeng in school from Monday to Friday, so he had to go to Monster Company to work on Saturday and Sunday. After all, there were many documents that required his signature before they could be stored in the warehouse, and many decisions had to be approved by him before they could be implemented. So after breakfast, Snake brought Gu Mengmeng into the changing room and asked her to pick a set of clothes for him to wear today. Suit after suit were neatly lined up on the clothes rack, from black to lighter colors, with the lightest being light gray. Yeah, there were white suits in the past, but ever since Gu Mengmeng teased him that he was the most handsome KFC in a white suit, Snake had thrown away all the white suits. To be honest, Gu Mengmeng only had one word for suits, and that was handsome. She would watch the red carpet of the various award ceremonies every year, but she could not tell the difference between the suits worn by the male celebrities other than the color of the suits. So Gu Mengmeng was actually a little flustered when Snake asked her to pick a suit. After all, they had spent too little time together, and she really did not understand Snake's preferences. What if she picked the wrong one? Gu Mengmeng sneaked a peek at Snake from the corner of her eye, and Snake seemed to have seen through her uneasiness. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, whispering into her ear, "Pick one that you think looks good, I will wear it for you to see. As long as you like it, I will like it." Gu Mingming's heart tightened, and she shrank her neck. Then, her fingers landed on a khaki 3-button suit for 4 years, and she took it down. She then found an excuse to struggle out of Snake's arms, and placed the suit on his body to size it up. Snake knew that she was not used to being hugged by him, so he did not force her. He just looked at her calmly, allowing her to size it up. Gu Mengmeng put the khaki suit back, and took a dark coffee-colored suit. She compared it and felt that this color looked better, so she secretly looked up at Snake's expression, trying to gauge his intentions. Snake looked at her with a smile, and said indulgently, "Like it? I will wear it for you to see." With that, Snake started to unbutton his own shirt. Gu Mengmeng was shocked, and shouted, "Don't move." Snake really stopped moving as if someone had pressed the pause button. He then stared fixedly at Gu Mengmeng. When she raised her head to look at him, the corners of her lips curved up, and she said, "What? Tu Meng wants to help me take off my clothes." Gu Mingming's face turned even redder. She shook her head like a rattledrum and said, No, I'll leave the clothes for you first. I'll go out first, you can slowly change." With that, Gu Mengmeng wanted to run. She had only taken one step when her wrist was grabbed by Snake. With a little force, she fell into Snake's arms. Snake-o looked down at her and smiled. "You are my personal assistant, isn't it part of your job to help me pack my luggage? Why run?" Packing up for the trip, does that include taking off and putting on clothes?" Gu Mengmeng wanted to retort, but she knew her own limits. With that unequal contract, she could not possibly gain any advantage over Snake. Pursing her lips, Gu Mengmeng looked up at Snake pitifully. "Didn't you say we can have unspoken rules?" Chapter 10-16. Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes, not knowing whether to advance or retreat. Sleep with him, it was not that she did not want to, but she did not dare to. Gu Mengmeng did not have the guts to do so. Not sleep with him, did she really have to tear off his clothes and put them on herself? Snake inched his face closer to Gu Mingming's and said, kiss me and I'll consider it as you sleeping with me. If it was just a kiss, it was acceptable. After all, their first kiss could be done in public. So a kiss on the cheek when no one was around was acceptable to Gu Mengmeng. So she leaned forward and prepared to give Snake a peck on the cheek. But before he could touch her, Snake turned his head and their lips touched each other without any mistake. Snake's green eyes were full of smiles, with gentleness and a hint of craftiness after getting his way. Gu Mengmeng blushed and retracted her mouth as if she was electrocuted. She wanted to run but Snake did not let her. He hugged her waist tightly and said, "This is the first time you took the initiative to kiss me. I enjoyed it very much." With that, he kissed Gu Mengmeng's cheek again and said, "Wait for me at the door. Don't go too far." Gu Mengmeng nodded. Only then did Snake let go of her and let her run out like the wind. Snake changed into the dark coffee-colored 3-button suit that Gu Mengmeng had chosen for him and matched it with a pair of exquisite handmade leather shoes. He took out a striped tie of the same color from the necktie box and was about to tie it when he stopped. "Tu Meng, come in." Gu Mengmeng cupped her face with both her hands and separated her fingers slightly. A pair of big eyes peeked out from between her fingers and she heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Snake was already dressed. She then walked in. Snake handed the tie to Gu Mengmeng and said, "Help me tie it." Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly and said, "But I don't know how to tie a tie." "Do whatever you want, it's fine even if it's a dead knot." "Ha!" Gu Mengmeng was a little confused. Although she was not knowledgeable, she could tell that the tie was not cheap. Moreover, Snake was going to work today. A dignified CEO wearing expensive clothes but a dead knot on his tie. This is not good. I just want you to tie me up, however you want to tie me up. Pfft. Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. He was not a dog, what did he have to say about being tied up? However, Gu Mengmeng really did not know how to tie a tie, but she did not tie a knot for Snake. Instead, she tied the tie like how a red scarf was tied. Snake himself was very satisfied, but Gu Mengmeng was so embarrassed that she wanted to chop off her own claws. Snake drove Gu Mengmeng to Monster Company himself. Gu Mengmeng did not know if it was a psychological trick, but her gaze was fixated on Snake's necktie. The more she looked, the more guilty she felt, and the more inappropriate she felt. "Why don't you untie it and redo it yourself?" Gu Mengmeng could not help but ask. But Snake smiled and said, "No need, this is good, very good." This knot was tied by Tu Meng, and because of this knot, Tu Meng's gaze was always on him. "Untie." Ha! Whoever dared to dispel it, he would risk his life to fight them. The car drove all the way to the underground car park of Monster Company. There was a special parking space for Snake there. After parking the car, they directly entered the elevator that was reserved for the CEO. Out of habit, she wanted to press the top floor, but her fingers suddenly hesitated. Chapter 10:17. Aren't we going to the office? Gu Mengmeng asked in confusion. Snake hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms and kissed her forehead. "I'll bring you around the lobby first. Let the people in the company get to know the future lady boss." Gu Mengmeng blushed. The blush on her face did not fade for the entire day. Ding dong, the elevator doors opened. The receptionist opposite the elevator was clearly stunned. Firstly, she had never seen the CEO walk out of the elevator on the first floor. Secondly, the CEO had always been a loner and never allowed anyone to get close to him. But today, he was hugging a woman. "Hello, CEO." The receptionist was quick to react and immediately stood up to greet Snake. Snake did not say a word. He just hugged Gu Mengmeng and walked around the lobby. Then, he returned to the elevator doors and pressed all the buttons on the first floor. Then, he retreated before the doors closed. When the elevator went up, he then pressed the up button from outside. His right hand was still wrapped around Gu Mingming's shoulder the entire time, not letting go for even a second. Gu Mengmeng felt extremely uncomfortable being stared at like X-rays. She asked softly, "What are you doing?" Snake smiled faintly. "Waiting for the elevator." Gu Mengmeng, an empty elevator exclusive to the CEO, stopped at every floor for a while before opening. Everyone in the company was shocked. After standing up to greet him, they realized that the elevator was empty. The CEO was not inside at all. Hence, they looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. When the elevator finally returned to the first floor, Snake brought Gu Mengmeng in. Then, he pressed the button for the highest floor and went to the office. Gu Mingming's face was red and awkward the entire time. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Along the way, everyone with eyes kept staring at her, as if she was naked. After entering Snake's office, Gu Mengmeng collapsed on the sofa armrest. She was speechless at Snake's cheerful mood. Was it because rich people's brain circuits were different from normal people's? Didn't novels always say that CEOs would be secretive when dating poor girls for fear of being discovered? Why was he so ostentatious? Wasn't he afraid that his mother would throw a check in her face and force her to leave him? Sensing Gu Mingming's gaze, Snake, who had just sat on the office chair and approved a document, looked up at her and said, "You are looking at me like this. Are you hinting to me that you want something to happen here?" Damn it, another instant understanding. Gu Mengmeng deeply felt that she was not pure. Turning his head away, he said, "Why did you play with the elevator like that?" Snake looked at Gu Mengmeng in surprise. "I'm flaunting my love. It's so obvious, can't you tell?" Cough cough cough. Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake speechlessly and said, "So why are you showing off your love?" Snake touched his nose and smiled sweetly. His voice was filled with joy. "I just can't wait to let everyone know that you are the person I like, and we are together." Looking at Snake's gentle expression and hearing his every word that seemed to resonate with his heartbeat, the uneasiness and awkwardness in Gu Mingming's heart gradually melted. She did not know when Snake fell in love with her, but these few days of interaction made her certain of one thing: Snake really loved her very much, and loved her terribly. Aside from the topic, cold dog food was randomly slapped on her face. Chapter 10:18. The white fog gradually gathered and the scene disappeared behind it. Gu Mengmeng felt like she had just watched a sweet movie and her mood became much better. She stretched lazily and stood up from the chair. Turning back, she met the beast deity's smiling gaze. "Father, this place is much bigger than the last time I was here," Gu Mengmeng said. The beast deity nodded. "Yes, you brought more hope to the beast world, so you obtained more power." But she did not do anything. Gu Mengmeng looked at the beast deity in confusion. After a long silence, she suddenly understood something. The first time the Grassy appeared was not because she merged the mermaid tribe and giant fish tribe, nor because she dug the well. It was because she obtained the kiss of the ocean, so the reason why the area became bigger this time was because of the soul of the forest. As if he could read Gu Mingming's mind, the beast deity rubbed her head. "When you gather the 7 treasures, the white fog will dissipate. Looking at it now, it should be a beautiful grassland. Full of hope." Gu Mingming's mind buzzed. She remembered that the beast deity had once told her that when the white fog dissipated, the doors of time and space would open. Instinctively taking a step back, Gu Mengmeng gazed at the beast deity. "I can choose not to return, right?" The beast deity nodded. "No one can force you. The choice is in your hands." It was the same answer as the previous time. Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief. Taking 2 deep breaths, Gu Mengmeng adjusted her emotions. "I came here this time because I have a few questions. ask away. The beast deity looked like a good father who would tell her everything. Gu Meng Meng said, "Do you know a female called Melinda whom I saved when I was retrieving the kiss of the ocean?" The beast deity chuckled. I watched True Records of Love in the Battlefield. Gu Meng Meng chuckled. True Records of Love in the Battlefield was a joke she had made when she helped Melinda and Carter clear the stray beasts on the way back. But since the beast deity already knew, Gu Meng Meng did not say anything else. So she asked directly, "There is just something I don't understand. Why did Dora want Melinda dead? She likes Fei Rui, but Fei Rui and Melinda are siblings." The beast deity rubbed Gu Meng Meng's head. "Because of jealousy." Jealous? Gu Meng Meng could not understand. The beast god nodded and continued, "Fei Rui and Dora grew up together. Dora has always liked Fei Rui, but ever since Melinda was born, Fei Rui's attention has been completely focused on his precious sister. He has become colder and colder towards Dora. Dora kept trying to get on Fei Rui's good side. She used all kinds of methods to get Fei Rui's attention, but she could not get Fei Rui's attention back from Melinda. Hence, she decided to kill Fei Rui. She thinks that as long as Melinda dies, Fei Rui's attention will return to her." Gu Meng Meng held her forehead. She was really on the verge of breaking down. She thought that in modern times, the kind of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law fight 70 times was already the peak of ethical dramas. She didn't expect that this, "kill your sister because I love you," would reach the peak. Shaking her head, Gu Meng Meng only wanted to clarify the situation, but she did not have the strength to judge who was right or wrong. Love was something that could not be explained clearly. Chapter 10:19. The beast deity held on to Gu Meng Meng's stray hair and looked at her neck. He chuckled. "Yeah, it has changed." Gu Meng Meng was taken aback. She frowned. "But Snake looked fine just now," the beast deity nodded. "The guardian mark is different from the mating mark. The guardian mark will change according to the power you have inherited." Gu Meng Meng stared blankly at the beast deity. Forgive her for not understanding what he was saying. The beast deity thought for a moment. "Do you still remember the poisonous fog you sucked in with the kiss of the ocean?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. The beast deity chuckled. "That was the venom of a snake." Without waiting for Gu Meng Meng to ask, he continued. "Do you still remember the blood you sucked into your palm to retrieve the soul of the forest?" Gu Meng Meng nodded again. The beast deity continued. "That was the blood of a snake." Gu Meng Meng frowned. She did not understand. The beast deity continued. "Then do you know who that snake is?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head. The beast deity said, "Whales." The beast deity only said one name, but it made Gu Meng Meng shudder. Whales. Snake's biological father. The one whose heart was dug out by Wang Xiaoxin. The beast deity nodded. He agreed with Gu Meng Meng's guess. Then he continued, "What snake left you is his personal protection mark, and also a key. You absorbed whale's blood and venom. That is equivalent to activating this key and opening the door to the guardian mark. You should have realized it yourself. You are much stronger than before. In the past, the snake species submitted to you because they feared your beast king powers. Or they wanted to use your identity as the messenger of the beast deity to gain protection. Or they were like Wabi, who saw you in a different light because of Snake. But now..." The beast deity paused for a moment before continuing, "Now, your protection mark has changed from Snake's personal mark to the Snake clan's protection mark. In other words, no snake species can go against your orders. You are the absolute ruler and cannot be disobeyed." Gu Meng Meng frowned. She recalled Wabi's strange behavior the day they returned with the soul of the forest. That day, she clearly didn't release her aura. All she said was, "Stop," and Wabi collapsed to the ground like boiled noodles, unable to get up. Cole also said that if she did not let him up, he would definitely not be able to get up. So, it wasn't because of the Beast King's strength, but because of the change in the Guardian mark. Do you still remember Ellie's death? The beast deity continued. Back then, she had forcefully disobeyed Snake's orders. That was why her scales fell off piece by piece and her skin was peeled off while she was still alive. It was obvious how furious Snake was then. And now you have the same ability. Gu Meng Meng frowned, feeling a little uncomfortable. She clearly remembered the beast deity saying that after Wales died, Wang Xiaoxin realized that she had fallen in love with him, so she gave up the chance to return to the modern world and wanted to stay in the beast world. But, then why did Whale's blood and venom appear in the deep sea in Zacharias? The beast deity kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. Alright, you will understand some things in the future. Hurry back, or else Elvis and Leah will be very worried about you. Chapter 1020. The beast deity smiled without saying a word. Gu Mengmeng then understood that the answer was still, "I can't say." The answer was the same every time. Gu Mengmeng could not even feel the slightest sense of disappointment. Before she left, she hugged the beast deity and said, "Only when you raise a child will you realize the kindness of your parents. When I was being willful, I must have caused you a lot of trouble." The beast deity stroked Gu Mingming's back lovingly and kindly. "No, you make me feel very proud most of the time. Moreover, you even watch television with me." Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "You are probably the most indecent deity I have ever seen or heard of." The beast deity did not comment and just watched as Gu Mengmeng fell. When Gu Mengmeng woke up from her weightless state, she opened her eyes and saw a pair of blue eyes. It was as if every time Gu Mengmeng went to see the beast deity, Elvis would stare at her without rest. Because every time she opened her eyes, she would meet his gentle and concerned gaze. Gu Mengmeng was not in a hurry to get up. Instead, she flipped over and hugged Elvis's waist. Her tiny body burrowed into Elvis's arms. She called out hoarsely, "Hubby. I am here." Elvis stroked Gu Mingming's hair gently and kissed her brow. Gu Mengmeng asked, "When I went to find the beast deity, did you not sleep at all?" Elvis smiled and replied, Why didn't you sleep?" "I was afraid." Elvis took a deep breath. His deep and husky voice was filled with a tinge of exhaustion and a lot of affection. "I was afraid that the beast deity would suddenly take you away, just like how he brought you here without any warning." Elvis rubbed his chin against the top of Gu Mingming's head, greedily inhaling the scent that belonged to her. He could feel her breath on his chest. It was itchy but very comfortable. "So, I can only stare at you without blinking. Only then can I be at ease." Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis and asked, "So you did not eat or sleep these few days?" Elvis nodded. "It's normal for males to not eat or sleep for 3 to 4 days. It's fine." Gu Mengmeng pretended to glare at Elvis angrily and he immediately said tactfully, "Leah guessed that you would wake up today so he prepared a lot of food. I will accompany you to eat later, eat more, all right?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and smiled without saying a word. She just continued to stay in Elvis's arms and buried her face in his chest, not wanting him to see her expression. She forbade them to keep anything from her. She forbade them to lie to her in the name of doing it for your own good. However, she managed to hide the fact that the white fog in her dream was gradually dissipating. She did not know when the door of time and space would open, and she would have to choose between staying or leaving. It wasn't that they didn't want to talk about it, but they were already so uneasy. If they talked about it, anyway, she wouldn't choose to leave them, so it didn't matter if she didn't say it. In this life, he would only hide this one thing, and he would hide it for the rest of his life. Leah heard the commotion in the house and knew that Gu Mengmeng had woken up. He unknowingly heaved a sigh of relief and adjusted the fire so that the food could be cooked as soon as possible. Chapter 10:21. Wabi had been seriously injured by Gu Mengmeng and had not appeared for the past few days. Qi Xian was still the same, sitting quietly by the door every day. In the few days that Gu Mengmeng was unconscious, he would purposely walk over to her bedside to look at her every time he woke up or went to sleep. However, he did not say a word and would just go back to do what he was supposed to do after looking at her. Although it was just a glance, Gu Mengmeng still felt very warm. Leah said. Qi Xian still didn't like to talk to people, but Kanwu's chatterbox lingered around Qi Xian every day without getting tired of it. Although Qi Xian looked expressionless, he would still reply once in a while. Hedo was the eldest of the four brothers, but he was the one who spoke the least. Whenever he said something, Qi Xian would do as he was told even though he did not reply. On the contrary, it was Jiaoyu who was so smart that he could not do anything to Qi Xian. Especially when Kanwu bragged about how many words Qi Xian had said to him and how many words Qi Xian had said to Jiaoyu. Such a comparison caused Jiaoyu's confidence to take a heavy blow. He felt that his genius brain had actually lost to a shameless fool. However, even though they were fooling around, the relationship between the four brothers was still very good. To Gu Mengmeng, that was the second piece of good news. In the evening, the sky was suffused with red clouds. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and watched as her four sons sat in a circle not far away. Of course, it was the other three who accommodated to Qishuan's seat and sat beside him to harass him daily. But Qi Xian didn't express any rejection or annoyance. He just sat quietly and allowed them to make a ruckus around him. Leah swung his furry big tail and bent his knees to sit beside Gu Mengmeng. Zachariah's tribe, do you have any plans? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and felt a little frustrated. She had promised Leonard to bring the Zachariah's tribe into Saint Nazaire and become a sub-tribe like Sauter. But after so many things happened, Gu Mengmeng could barely take care of herself and forgot to make arrangements for this tribe. Leah could not bear to let Gu Mengmeng worry about such matters, so he said slowly, that witch Dr. Nick in the tribe is quite capable. After Leonard's death, he managed all the matters in the tribe in an orderly manner. However, it's only a level 2 beast after all. Problems will definitely arise after a long time. Do you have a suitable candidate? Gu Mengmeng asked. Leah nodded and said, Burke. Gu Mengmeng raised her brows, a little surprised by Li's suggestion. Leah said, after a winter's worth of corrections, those who were too weak in his tribe have already been eliminated. Although the remaining ones were not that strong, it should not be a problem for them to migrate from Sauter to Zacharias. Although that fellow overestimates himself, he is a responsible male and has experience as a leader. Most importantly, Burke would never betray Gu Mengmeng. The males in the beast world were all stubborn. Once they fell in love with a female, they would stay for life. Even if he didn't get a response, he would just hang on to the tree. So what happened to Oakley would not happen to Burke. But Leah did not mention this point. He would not express his feelings for other males in front of Gu Mengmeng. He was not a fool. Chapter 10:22. Li's gaze landed on the four little ones not far away. He was a little hesitant, but he still said, So, I want Kanwu to come with Burke. Kanwu is your son and has an esteemed status. If he calls Burke master, it will be equivalent to elevating Burke's status. No one would dare to say anything. Moreover, Zacharias borders the stray beast camp, and the leader here is Peter. Peter's weakness is Natalie, and Natalie will never allow Peter to harm Elvis's children. Furthermore, if anything happens to Zacharias, Peter will have to send people to help protect it. This is equivalent to turning one of our greatest enemies into our greatest allies. Gu Mengmeng knew that her sons were all adults and would eventually have to go out and establish their own families. But she never expected this day to come so quickly. Her sons were not even 2 years old yet. She had just snatched back Qi Xian, and now she had to send away Kanwu. If you can't bear to, we can think of other ways. Leah had already given her the most comprehensive plan, but he couldn't bear to let Gu Mengmeng feel heartache. Just as Elvis had said, as long as Gu Mengmeng was happy, raising a litter of useless wolf cubs was nothing. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, Kanwu has already grown up. He knows what he is doing. You can discuss this matter with him. As long as he is willing, I have no objections. Although I am his mother, I can't tie him to my belt forever. Gu Mengmeng said it casually, but she was actually feeling terrible inside. It was an indescribable contradiction. On one hand, she was glad that her sons had grown up, but on the other hand, she couldn't bear to let her sons leave her. Leah gently hugged Gu Mengmeng and said, Don't worry too much. This place is not too far from Saint Nazaire. We can visit him often in the future, or wait for Burke to establish himself here and then let Kanwu come back. Gu Mengmeng nodded and didn't say a word. When Gu Mengmeng told Kanwu about this, he agreed without a second thought. He had the willful and flamboyant air of a young man, as if he could finally fulfill his ambitions. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and shook her head in exasperation. This was truly a case of a mother worrying when her son travels 1,000 miles, but a mother worrying when her son travels 1,000 miles. This little heartless fellow did not seem to miss Gu Mengmeng at all. Gu Mengmeng could not bear to reprimand him, so she just smiled and watched as Kanwu eagerly planned out a future full of loopholes. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Qi Xian, who had been silent all along, suddenly stood up and walked to Gu Mengmeng's side. Mom, can I stay behind with Wu? You? Gu Mengmeng was surprised. Qi Xian nodded and turned back to look at Kanwu with a slight frown. Then, he turned back to look at Gu Mengmeng. I'm afraid he will be at a disadvantage. Gu Mengmeng, Leah, Elvis and even Jiaoyu understood that Qi Xian was saying Kanwu was too stupid. Only Kanwu did not seem to notice and even hooked his arm around Qi Xuan's neck. He was extremely excited and said affectionately, Second brother treats me the best. With a second-level beast like you by my side, I feel more at ease. Even if you want to beat a tiger, you need your own brothers, right? Qi Xian sighed and looked at Gu Mengmeng without saying a word. But his eyes were filled with the expression, look at how stupid he is, if you don't look after him, something bad will definitely happen. Seeing Gu Mengmeng's hesitation, Kanwu directly pounced into her arms and begged. Mom, you also know that I admire my second brother the most. Now that he is willing to take care of me, I am extremely happy. Please don't break us up. Chapter 10:23. The next day, Kanwu and Qi Xian set off for Zacharias. Leah personally sent them over. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt a little empty without the two sons that she worried about the most. Sitting at the spot where Qi Xian was daydreaming every day, Gu Mengmeng stared at the scenery. She thought that maybe she should learn to let go. As long as Qi Xian was not by Cole's side, she could actually let him be independent. She was not a crazy mother who wanted to tie her children to her side. She just could not allow her sons to fall into a deep abyss and not save them. That was good too. With Qi Xian and Kanwu at Zacharias, maybe, she could free up her hands to deal with Cole. Just as she was thinking, Peter suddenly paid a visit. Gu Mengmeng was surprised because Peter's attitude towards Natalie's litter was extremely good. Compared to Elvis's litter, it was like the difference between clouds and mud. Ever since Natalie gave birth, he could not bear to leave Natalie's side. If not for the fact that he could not reject Natalie's request to retrieve the soul of the forest, he would not have accompanied her at all. Today, he left Natalie behind to come see her. Gu Meng Meng stood up. He was Elvis's father after all. Gu Meng Meng still subconsciously treated him as an elder. Peter's expression did not look right. It was rather solemn. It was clearly a sunny day, but his features were hidden in the shadows. Elvis instinctively shielded Gu Meng Meng behind him. He looked at Peter with a guarded gaze. Peter did not continue approaching. He just stood a meter away. His fists were tightly clenched. Blood dripped from his palms, but he did not seem to notice. The atmosphere became rather stifling. Gu Meng Meng did not know what to say. She could only look at Peter quietly and wait for him to speak. After a long while, Peter finally spoke. You said that you can bring Natalie to Saint Nazaire and protect her. Does that still count? Gu Meng Meng was taken aback. Peter did not look like he wanted to leave with Natalie. Instead, he looked like he wanted to send Natalie off alone. Frowning, Gu Meng Meng asked, "Did something happen?" Peter looked up, his wolfish eyes bloodshot. His malevolent expression contorted his features and his entire face was trembling, showing the limits of his endurance. He was trying to control himself, sparing no effort. Take her away, protect her. Tell her that she's free now. The veins on Peter's arms throbbed as he glared at Natalie with bloodshot eyes. It was a desperate plea, a humbleness that had been forged from his own flesh and blood. In this lifetime, he would only submit to Natalie, be it in the past or now. If it's possible, please save at least 1 or 2 of the 6 pups. They're Natalie's only hope. If you can't. He clenched his fists even tighter, but even if he tensed up all the nerves in his body, he still couldn't say the last sentence. If that didn't work, he would give up on the pups and save Natalie. He couldn't bring himself to say it. Because this litter of wolf pups was different from Elvis's. Natalie was willing to help him give birth to this litter of wolf pups because she loved him. Every one of them was proof that she loved him. Chapter 10:24. You? Gu Meng Meng expressed her surprise. Yes, me. Peter exclaimed. I know that with your powers, you can completely crush coal. But since you are unwilling to dirty your hands, let me do it for you. As long as you can protect my female and son, I will be the sharpest sword in your hands. Gu Meng Meng seemed to understand something. She gently patted Elvis's arm, indicating that he didn't have to be too nervous. She took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Elvis, facing Peter. Does Natalie herself know that you want me to bring her away? Has she agreed? Peter's expression clearly changed, not because of anything else, but because Gu Meng Meng had mentioned that name. Some people were just like that. Just the mention of her name was like clutching your throat, making you forget to even breathe. After a long while, the corners of Peter's lips curled up. He wanted to smile, but the muscles on his face were too stiff, twisting the smile into a sinister one. I will make her agree. With that, he turned to leave without waiting for Gu Meng Meng's reply. Gu Meng Meng felt very conflicted as she watched Peter's back. She reached out for a hug from Elvis, before following him to Natalie's cave. Peter stood at the entrance of the cave for a long time. It was as if the entrance was filled with thorns, and every step he took would pierce an inch into his flesh. It was foreseeable that he would be badly mutilated. He clenched and unclenched his fists. After countless deep breaths, Peter's facial muscles were forcefully relaxed. He strode in with a cold and sinister expression. Just by looking at his back, Gu Meng Meng could clearly feel the pain he was in. You want to go in? Elvis asked. Gu Meng Meng nodded, but the corners of her lips curved up slightly. Elvis was different from Gu Meng Meng. He didn't care about anyone other than Gu Meng Meng. What did death and sorrow have to do with him? But Elvis understood Gu Meng Meng. She had always been soft-hearted and easily affected by others. But Peter's sorrow today had caused a faint smile to appear in Gu Mingming's eyes. This was not normal, forget it, as long as she wanted to do something, he would let her do as she pleased. Stepping into the cave, they saw Peter sitting boldly on one side of the bed, his head raised and chin looking at Natalie. "I have decided to let you off. Congratulations, you are free now, Scram. Take your son and get out of my sight. Don't ever appear in front of me again." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Natalie stood rooted to the ground. After all, even when their relationship was at its worst, Peter had never spoken to her like this. "You don't understand." Peter laughed coldly. "Back then, you abandoned me and turned me into a stray beast. That's why I took revenge on you and imprisoned you. I was waiting for you to fall in love with me, and then I would ruthlessly trample on you. Now that I've achieved my goal, I won't waste any more time on you. So, you can scram now." Natalie's face paled and she glared at Peter. "That's enough. I'm going to get angry if you continue." You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.